Hi students, good morning. This is your Sir Kevin O. And for today, our discussion would be business combinations. We'll be talking about general concepts provided by IFRS 3. And of course, small interpretation lang. But we will not be going through everything, ha? We'll only be discussing the general concept muna. The frequently asked question, that is. And for business combinations, the first of that would be, tatanong mo kaagad, what is business combination? Ano to? So, it is a transaction or other event in which an acquirer obtains control of one or more businesses. So, by way of implication, we can conclude from that definition provided by IFRS 3 that a business combination is a transaction involving an acquirer and an acquiree. May acquirer, meaning meron din acquiree. And that ang nangyayari po dito is the control over the business of the acquiree is transferred to the acquirer. So, okay. Acquirer, acquiree. Next question. How? Paano nangyari? Or, how can business combinations be executed? Paano matatransfer ang control over the business from acquiree to acquirer? It can happen in one of two ways. First of which is through acquisition of net assets. Paano itatransfer ang business? Di bilhin mo ang assets. Bilhin mo ang building, bilhin mo ang service equipment, bilhin mo ang land, bilhin mo ang everything. Also, ikaw na din bahala sa payables ni acquiree, ha? So in short, ang nangyayari po dito, acquisition of net assets, si acquiree is already giving up, going out of business. Ito si acquirer naman, will take over the business of the acquiree. So essentially, control over the net assets or control over the business will be transferred. Acquisition of net assets can be one of two things. First is statutory merger. So, ang common term dito is kinain ang business. So, A plus B equals A. Ang business ni B, kinain ni A or inabsorb ni A. After the merger, only A survived. B has been dissolved kasi ang business niya, it no longer exists to be in his control. It is no longer in his control, but it is already with A. So, the second variant of acquisition of net assets naman, it's statutory consolidation. Statutory consolidation is more of a cooperative effort. So, nagko-cooperate dito. Si A and B will become C. A plus B is equal to C. Sir, paano nangyari? Okay, ganito. AB. A and B, they will both dissolve. Itatransfer nila ang mga assets and liabilities nila to C. Okay, so imagine this. A and B will no longer have assets. They are going to be transferred to C. C will handle all the assets and liabilities of A and B. And ang mangyayari po, owners of A and B will become owners of C. Kasi in exchange for the assets, Company C will issue ordinary shares to A and B. Well, typically, in order to further understand statutory consolidation here is, ganito lang, C company is most of the time, if not all the time, a newly formed corporation. Okay? C company is a newly formed corporation. Sino gumawa? C company is incorporated by the shareholders of A and B company. And since A and B company will no longer exist, ang shareholders ni A and B magiging shareholders na ngayon ni C. Ganon po ang mangyayari. So, essentially, they are the same people operating in the same area pero now under a new name. Kasi po, dalawang company nag-merge. Yan. So, acquisition of net assets, the first example, statutory merger, si A po ang acquirer. Pero the second example, statutory consolidation, ang acquirer po dito is C company. Okay? Moving on. Acquisition of net assets. The other variant is acquisition of ordinary shares. So, net assets, alam natin na madali ma-transfer, madali ma-imagine ang transfer of control kasi if you transfer the assets, of course, the control will be also transferred. Pero, acquisition of ordinary shares. This is a little bit more complex, pero think of it like this. Ano ang ordinary shares? Well, ordinary shares are proof of ownership. They are owned by shareholders, di ba? And shareholders own the company. So think about it like this. What if Company A acquires all the shares of Company B? So, the current shareholders of B, binenta nila lahat ng shares to Company A. Ano mangyayari? Si Company A na lang ngayon ang sole shareholder ni Company B. So, in effect, Company A will be the sole shareholder of Company B. Well, actually, acquisition of ordinary shares. In order to constitute a transfer of control, we only need to have more than 50% of the outstanding shares. Not necessarily all the shares. More than 50%. We'll talk about that in a later video. Pero for now, think about it like this. If you have more than 50% ordinary shares, then in a decision making, in a shareholders meeting, you will always outvote everyone. In an election of board of directors, if you have more than 50% outstanding shares, you will always elect more board of directors than other people. And if you have more people in the board of directors, you have more power to decide kung sino ang magiging CEO, kung sino ang i-appoint as management, sino-sino ang nasa management. So, having enough ordinary shares can also mean having control over a company. Bakit? Kasi po, ordinary shares are the owners, shareholders elect the board of directors, the board of directors will govern over the company. Kung sino ang magmamanage, it will depend on the board of directors. So, it cascades on multiple levels. So, control will be mine. Whatever happens to them is orchestrated by me. Kasi po, I hold the management, I hold the board of directors, if I have enough ordinary shares. Pero siguro the key difference here is, kanina acquisition of net assets, ngayon acquisition of ordinary shares. Ang nangyayari po sa net asset acquisition, may nadidissolve. Kapag ordinary shares na ang i-acquire, walang kailangan ma-dissolve. The company will still continue to exist like this, but this time, meron ng another company that is bigger na nagko-control sa kanila. Okay? In short, their actions will be influenced by me, the parent company. Okay? So, yan. Next question. So, business combination. Okay, sir. Acquirer-acquiree, transfer of control. It may be done through acquisition of net assets or it may be done through acquisition of ordinary shares. But, acquisition, how can this acquisition be executed? Ano nga ba ang mga kailangan gawin para mangyari ang isang acquisition? What items are exchanged in a business combination? Alam natin na ang control nare-receive natin. Pero what do we give? The acquirer. The acquirer will have a value parted with. And normally, the acquirer will pay a sum of consideration, which will be known as acquisition cost, for the net assets or the ordinary shares na i-acquire natin. So, of course, babayaran mo yan either cash, non-cash assets, a promise to pay, or a liability, or you can issue shares of your own. So, yun. Business combination will always have an acquisition cost. And ito po ang acquisition cost po is ano ang ibinayad mo in order to acquire the net assets. Value parted with. The value received, after acquisition, the acquirer obtains control of all or a majority of the acquiree's net assets. So basically, ikaw ang magkakaroon ng control over the business of that company. So, in exchange for the consideration given, you will receive control over the business. Pero, this business is quantified by FINA or fair value of identifiable net assets. So, babayaran ko, sa akin ngayon ang control over the business. Pero just like basic accounting, value received and value parted with. What if they are not equal? What if acquisition cost is not equal to the fair value of net assets na natanggap mo? Or the business na natanggap mo? When AC and fee na acquired are not equal, the difference is goodwill or gain on bargain purchase, or otherwise known as gain on acquisition. Ano to? Goodwill. Is this something new? Goodwill? Well, I don't think this is the first time na narinig mo yung goodwill, no? Pero goodwill, okay. In a blunt sense, goodwill is potential. Goodwill is, okay, I am willing to do more for you because I believe you can give me better. Well, that is actually vague, Let's have a better example. Let's say the net assets of a company is 100,000. Pero you paid, to acquire that, you paid 150,000. Now let me ask, why were you willing to pay more than the value of the company? Bakit willing ka mag-pay ng greater? Well, maybe because the company is more than the sum of its parts. Maybe because you see more value than the physical thing. You see intangible value over the company. May nakikita ka na potential, may nakikita ka na synergies na maaari mong ma-exploit in order to gain more. So again, the value received in a business combination is FINA, di ba? Net assets value. If I would be selling the net assets, ito matatanggap ko. Pero what if i-operate ko ang assets na to? What if I use these assets? What if I exploit their potentials? Maybe there could be more. Okay? That question mark na baka meron pa tayong makuha na mas maganda is goodwill. Pero if we would base this on standard definition, goodwill comes from capable workers. Goodwill comes from a good name. Kilala, like for example, Apple products. Why is it preferred over others kahit mas mahal sila? Diba? That's goodwill. Goodwill is having better technology over another company. Or goodwill is simply having an established customer base or mga suki. Okay? Why are you willing to pay more for this company? Kasi itong company na to maraming suki. Simple as that. But enough about that. Okay, you pay more. When you pay more for a company, that excess payment is goodwill. But what if you pay lesser? Ang acquisition mo mas maliit kaysa sa na-receive mong value in form of net assets. Well, that is a GOBP. GOBP is gain on bargain purchase. Malamang naka-gain ka kasi ang konti ng binayad mo pero ang natanggap mo mas malaki. Whereby, kung mas mataas ang binayad mo, more than the net assets, that means you see potential. That is still an asset that you can capitalize as goodwill. Pero, I believe this is better explained nang nasa application tayo. So guys, down in the description, there is a link to the part 2 of this video. Check that out for the problem solving part.